Hey everyone, this screencast is designed to chronicle my working procedure of scoring the picture. I'm not saying this is a be-all, end-all of how to work picture in Sonar, but this is how I survive day to day. Perhaps this will answer some technical questions others have, perhaps others can chime in and I can get some workflow tips. So let's start with my setup. I have multiple computers that I use a KVM switcher to bounce between computers. I try to keep my main DAW computer offline, so no need for protection programs that can and will interfere with audio recording and timing. And just about every 2 to 3 years, I try to buy a new computer and relegate the older computers for email and web surfing. I have 3 monitors. One is an older TV set that is connected with a USB adapter that is just for picture playback. It's important with Sonar that you have a good professional sound card, and you're not going to be able to work well with 64-bit, let alone picture, with a second-rate sound card. I'm using the REM Fireface because that was what was recommended to me, and it has worked well. Because I'm working with picture, it's best to set the sampling rate at 48K, and I like 24-bit. ASIO is the recommended mode to work with. And to keep latency low and timing workable, I start with my buffer size at 128. As the project gets bigger and I start hearing pops and crackles, I'll raise this rate. When I move to the mixing stage, latency is not so much an issue, so I might raise it to 512. I have not had to go higher than that on this machine. I have 3 hard drives, a C drive for programs, a drive to handle Sonar projects and other work apps, and a 3rd drive dedicated to library playback. Not having multiple hard drives will choke up my system and make scoring the picture real rough. Metronome seems to cause some trouble, and to minimize that issue, I have an old drum machine running through a mixer, and I use the MIDI note setting in the preferences instead of generating the click internally. Okay, the scoring process starts with my client sending me a picture file. Usually what I get is a QuickTime file, like 99% of the time. Now, Sonar is kind of finicky about what picture codecs and files it will work with, and I don't have the time nor the inclination to mess with any of that. So I just tell my client, send me the picture, and I'll take it from there. And okay, to be honest, I use a light version of Vegas called Home Studio. I know that if I generate an MPEG-1 or an AVI file out of Vegas, Sonar is happy and I can get to work, and that's all I care about. I have a template in Vegas that I start with that has a 10-second countdown built in with a 2-beep. I'll use the 2-beep to help with sync later on. Now, I'm going to place my first frame of picture at the 10-second mark in Vegas. From experience, I know that I'm going to get multiple versions of just about every project to work on. By standardizing my start time at 10 seconds, one benefit is I will not have to resync Sonar for every new version of the show. I will have to re-input the SMPTE offset if the segment I'm working on is not at the beginning of the show or film, and editors will inevitably send picture files with different roll-up times or the time it takes for the picture to start. And it's always wise to have at least 10 seconds of roll-up when working with picture files. You never know why or what you'll need that extra time for. And I'm going to use an episode of a new TV show I'm working on called The Incident. So keep your eyes and ears open for this show. It's going to be a good one. This is a TV series, but these techniques will work fine for film reels also. I don't like working with files longer than 10 or 15 minutes for many reasons, including safety's sake. It's been years since I've tried, but longer files like feature-length films or complete TV episodes would choke my system and Sonar. TV shows always have commercial breaks, and that's a good place to break up a TV show. Films used to come in chunks of reels, and not so much these days. So I have my video at the 10-second mark. At this point, I go through the program and play streamers and punches. I'm going to just say that creating streamers and the things I'm doing here might take a little time, but save me hours and hours down the road. I'm going to drop in my own time code generated from Vegas in. It is important that everyone is using the same time code, otherwise we're going to have some big sync problems. TV shows are supposed to be 29.9 drop frame. Films are usually 24 frames and are lately 23.9. Okay, at this point, I have my first frame of picture at the 10-second mark. I've got my streamers and punches in, and I know my frame rate. Audio is set, and I have dropped in my own time code. I'm ready to generate a picture file for Sonar. Lately, I'm really liking the way MPEG-1s work. They're small enough to back up a project with picture on one DVD disc, so I've been going with that. Sony Vegas Home Studio version 9 has MPEG-1 as a render option. Version 12 does not. Rendering in MPEG-1 happens very quickly. And Sonar likes AVIs also. AVIs seem to put less strain on the computer, but if they are large files and they take a while to generate. So let's make a movie. Since I'm rendering on a computer other than my DAW computer, I can get to work in Sonar now. I try to manage my time so there's no downtime waiting, and with more than one computer, that is really very easy. I'm going to send the music to the final mix in stems, and for those of you who don't know, stems are submixes of the final mix. I generally create 5 to 7 stereo stems that, when mixed at the same level, give you back the same final mix. This is a good practice for many reasons. So I'm going to speak to the audio mixer before I get started and give him an idea of what the instrumentation is going to be, and I'm going to ask him what stems he would like from me. To speed up composing and mixing, I'm going to put the instruments for the different stems in their own folder. Now I've got Sonar set up for the music part. My MPEG is done rendering. It's time to import the picture file into Sonar. You import a video here. I import the audio also. Once the picture audio file is in, I like to open up Pro Channel and put some good compression on the picture audio and turn this up pretty good. If the audio is too soft, I tend to compose and record at too low a levels. Now we want to sync Sonar to the picture file. Go to Preferences by hitting P. Under Project, open up Clock. You will see SMPTE MIDI timecode offset. Input the first frame of the burnt-in timecode here. That is your offset. As a general rule of thumb, TV shows start at the 1 hour mark. The reason why is that roll-up time was needed, and many old machines could not deal with going past midnight or the 000 mark. So a picture will start at the 1 hour mark. The proper frame rate needs to be chosen here also. The video editor should tell us what the frame rate is. It should not be a secret. At this point, I spot check to the end of picture to see if Sonar's timecode matches the picture files. It's okay to be off a frame or two every once in a while. That's normal and mostly a function of splitting hairs on where a frame starts and stops. But if the difference keeps getting bigger and bigger, the wrong frame rate has been chosen, and I need to go back and choose a different frame rate. Things look good here, so time to start scoring. The first issue we're going to run across in scoring is getting beats to line up to picture. There are 3 ways I use to make that happen in Sonar. 1, manipulating the meter. 2, the set measure beat at now function. 3, the fit to time function using change tempo map. I'm not going to go into great detail on how those work here. I'll just add that using fit to time requires data. So using that feature, I occasionally have to create dummy data. You can get Sonar to start measure 1, beat 1 on a specific frame by inputting that frame here. This is how most people work, and it is a good way to work if you're creating a separate file for each music cue. I have not been in the habit of doing this because of old work habits, and I really don't have a problem getting a measure or beat to line up with any frame. There is a cool website that has a tool to help with tempo and hitting beats. After this point, scoring in Sonar is no different than creating a song. I like to create a dummy track that triggers no sound, and I look at that in staff view. Here I will sketch out melodies and chord changes instead of using paper and pencil, and orchestrate from here. Depending on the score, I will bounce into different screen sets with various staff views. Editing in staff view is clunky, so I open up piano view on another screen and edit notes there in piano view and just look at the results in the staff view. I like to see the big clock, the navigator, and markers here on this monitor. I'm usually under some tight deadlines, and these help me to manage my time. I can quickly see how far into a segment I am and how much more to go. The navigator is a big help sometime in mixing, songs and scores. Sometimes I feel like there are too many elements in a mix, no dynamics, ups or downs. The navigator is a good way to visually confirm or deny. Once I've composed music for a segment, I'm going to need to send a sample to the producer for approval. Sonar does render picture, but is not very efficient at it, and I don't think any DAW really is. So I'm going to spit out a stereo WAV file to my shared hard drive, which can take all about a minute with a huge file. In Sonar, you kind of got to decide if you want to mix your video audio with the music or mix it in later with Vegas. You might want the mix out of Sonar if you processed your audio in Sonar and it affects the way you hear the music. I hit Control A in Sonar so that my new music will sync in Vegas just by dropping into the beginning. I load up Vegas on my other computer and drop in the new music. I make sure that my streamers are muted. Earlier I created a title page. I make sure that it's accurate and says music sample. Looking organized can go a long way to getting music approved. Now render a pic file to send on the web. I actually use the Sony AVC as a format because it acts like a QuickTime file, and QuickTime files out of Vegas on my system suffer from phase issues. Not sure how or why, and again, I use what works and move on. I really do not care how or why. While that file is rendering and uploading to the client, I'm jumping back into Sonar and working on the next segment. Okay, so let's say the client gets back to us and we have approved music. The next step depends on the type of project and the budget. My favorite is to get ready for the big scoring session with the orchestra, but most of the time the final music is generated from what I created in Sonar. So I can, 1, send a stereo wave. 2, if there are segments or reels, create a stereo broadcast wave. If the correct offsets were put into each project, the broadcast wave files are time-stamped and will drop into the correct place in the picture file. Or 3, create an OMF to be sent to the mix or the orchestral recording session. Okay, time to mix. I save the old file and then save a new file with the MX extension at the end. Of course, I've had autosave and create versions on. First thing I'm going to do is delete the temp score and picture audio. I am going to keep the 2-beep. Some audio guys don't like this because they don't know why it's there and it adds a step and they have to delete it. But the 2-beep, which goes 2 seconds before the first frame of picture, can be a big help. So if timecode gets changed or messed up, the mixer can easily place the music without any questions. The easiest thing to do is place that 2-beep at the first frame of picture, then slide the music back 2 seconds. Then hide the 2-beep. Music does not always start in the beginning of a reel or on a segment or on the first frame. If I am creating an OMF with stems, solo the 2-beep track in the folder of the stem I wish to mix. Control A, go to tracks, bounce to tracks. After that renders, unsolo the folder and solo the next folder. Keep repeating until all the stems are created. And note to self, lower the volume of the 2-beep some because it will be really loud if you don't. Sometimes I save then create another new file with an OMF extension. After all the stems are mixed, I delete out all audio tracks other than the stems. I can leave all the clips as they are, and that would be safe and easy for the mixer, but creates a very large OMF file. If I know and trust the mixer, I usually do, I can remove silence on the whole project, and that will drastically reduce the size of the final OMF. Usually Pro Tools is where the final mix is going to happen, or the recording of the big orchestra. To create an OMF that works in Pro Tools, the following settings have to be checked. Embed audio within OMF, split stereo tracks into dual mono, include archived tracks, write RIFF wave, once the OMF is ready, drop it into the Dropbox and let the mixer know it's on the way. So there you go. That's how I survive each and every day. Good luck.